Hi, I'm Mark Martinez,
I'm Logan Gordon,
and you're watching.
Mark and the Beast.
On this episode, we have a pretty special guest with us, a very special guest with us. As you know, we've entered the Halloween season, and for this Halloween, we have an extra special treat coming up for all of us here in the Austin area, and this treat involves the mixture of horror films and metal.
The perfect combination.
Yes. And,
There's no better combination.
No. And what we're talking about is Death by Festival coming up at the end of the month, and we have kind of the one of the head honchos of Death by Festival here, Mr. Nic Brown, to talk about me. And to talk a little bit about the festival, and we'll let you talk here.
All right. Yeah, so Death by Festival was created with my partner, Susie Winfield. She was one of my co-producers that ran the Housecore Horror Film Festival that we used to be able to do with Corey Mitchell and Phil Insamo. And this one's a little bit closer to the heart, closer to the vest for us, where we wanted to be able to give an opportunity to really focus a lot on new projects kind of coming out into the horror industry and clearly supporting a different line of music that kind of went in combination with it. So we kind of took some elements of the things that we've become kind of accustomed to and then kind of putting some spin onto it.
And for the people here in the Austin area, in a few years, Housecore kind of turned into this kind of legendary festival that people, even if people who didn't go to it, still talk about it. Like, oh, I wish I'd gone to it. I heard so much about it. And it was just this very unique blending of horror films and metal, and that first year when they had all the 35 millimeter screenings out in the
right.
Those were just fantastic. And can you talk a little bit about how, before we get into Death by Festival, how you got involved in running or helping to run horror film festivals?
Essentially, the way that it started out was when I moved to Austin from Denver. I was in the music industry where I did a lot of the journalism, and just that was kind of the thing. And there wasn't a lot of a big music scene so much in Denver. When I moved to Austin, I was like, well, this would be a great area for me to be able to take the opportunity and start covering a lot of different music. It was saturated. It just became to where I could hear a lot of great stuff when we're in the live Capitol music area, but it just was, I was another little fish in the same little pond, and I wanted to try to explore something different, so I kind of stepped back and I was like, how can I still be creative but not do this? Well, then I was like, well, clearly I'm a horror nut, always gonna jump on that bandwagon. I was introduced to horror films really early on with like Child's Play and Texas Chainsaw Massacre and things like that. But being behind the camera was something that grew on me very quickly. I went to, I believe it was Universal Studios when I was living in California as a kid, and I was doing a tour with my mom and two other people, and the guys driving around on a little cart. And as we're driving by, they were filming Child's Play 2. So immediately I'm just going to be like, hey! And they're like, oh, sorry, it's a closed set, can't go on there. And I was just like, oh, would you ask? And I think that's kind of been my motto through the rest of my life. Is just like, you know what, it doesn't hurt to open your mouth and ask. So they actually brought us on set, they allowed it, and I got to see them do all the animatronics and doing like live Foley with some of the puppetry and just trying to get everything going. And that for me was like, wow, this is really awesome behind the camera. So I've always watched people on camera. Now I get to see the world behind it. So I wanted to dive into what it's like to work in film in Austin. It is a very cool little niche area where there's so many people working on projects, and we got big major studio films and independents. So I was like, all right, well, I'll come in and I'll be an extra. I'll do background stuff, and I'll just watch, learn. And in doing so, I just started networking and learning what people were really doing and really starting to appreciate it and kind of finding out what I like. And that led to people introducing me to other people and then bringing me on to be able to do projects. So I ended up doing Olympus Has Fallen. I did a week of stunt stuff just because, so there's a lot of really cool things that I've been able to be blessed with the opportunity to work with a lot of different people. So with moving into the film industry and getting into housecore, Corey Mitchell, who's one of the co-founders from housecore with Phil, he was doing a Q&A panel with Sean, who's the percussionist from Slipknot. And at the end of their little talk, he had like a little tongue-in-cheek thing where he was just talking about that him and Phil were having this idea of doing a film fest. And immediately I was just like, I gotta find this guy. I have to talk to him. Because clearly if he's up here and talking with Slipknot people, which I had met and known since I was a kid, I was like, yeah, these are the people I definitely want to be hooked up with. So I got a hold of Corey, bugged the heck out of him, and I was like, hey, let me just come meet you, talk to you, or whatever. And he's like, all right. So we met down at this little bar downtown Austin called the Dirty Dog. And I think it was during South by. And he immediately was just like, all right, well, we're gung-ho with just getting everything going and trying to get this launched. So he had like some shirts, like just some general shirts, and he's like, if you could pass these out, here's some cards. And it was just kind of started the grassroots. And I didn't have a whole lot to really offer in the beginning because I was coming into somebody else's project, but I was enthusiastic about it. So I used that enthusiasm for the next few months, just saying like, oh, hey, if I can help push this film, your way, or get you hooked up with this director, just being a really good middleman. And I found that being in the middle was actually really fun. So sometimes running things can be very chaotic, but when you know that you can connect A and C together and you work as a very good B, like that's how I figured out that's what I worked well in. So come the first year, we kicked off and I was still just the minion doing whatever needed to be done. Very small team of us running everything together. So it had a very family atmosphere to it, and then it became very easy just to kind of get a feel of like, okay, well now I think I can vocalize some ideas and kind of interject that into some real material coming in the coming years.
And when you were talking about the family aspect of it was when myself and on my old show that used to air here on Fanboy TV, myself and Charlie, when we first went and covered the first housecore.
Right.
That's one thing that we felt, that it was just this group putting on this really amazing festival, and we wanted to give it any support that we could, because it was a great thing. And it started from the top down with Corey and his vision, and how he brought in you and all this group of people that put this thing on. And so can you talk about how the genesis of Death by Festival, about how you and Susie getting together, and how did this come about?
No, I can't talk about that. No, the genesis of it was Susie's enthusiasm of just bugging the crap out of me all the time. Corey Mitchell had passed away following our second year of housecore, and that took a very strong blow to the whole team, and really had to reevaluate kind of what we were doing, what we were about, how we would proceed from those things. And so when we did the third year, that third year was purely just out of love and recognition for Corey. That whole basis of that we don't want things to end, we want them to be able to continue on, and we still do. But a lot of that passion really came directly from Corey. He was a supercomputer in his head, and he was just a beast in everything that he did, and there's no way to be able to replace anything that he would ever touch. So all we could do is do our best to honor his kind of vision. So after the third year, I ended up taking a hiatus from doing any work, like no film, no festivals, like no writing, like nothing. I just needed to ground myself, basically, just kind of get into a different spot. And my partner Susie was very much in the same thing, because for all of us, losing Corey was just losing a giant chunk of ourselves and what we were motivated to do. So we had to be able to get to that place in our heads again, to where we felt that this was going to be a benefit, not just for us, but that this was going to be something that we could help drive the industry and get the community really involved. And so Susie was calling me like every week, just being like, hey, you want to do this? And I would just be like, no. Because it's hard. It's hard. Like I couldn't even wrap my head around being another Corey in the slightest regard. And it's just like a lot of muscle, a lot of heart, a lot of motivation, a lot of help. So Susie finally wore me down, and I was like, all right, we'll have a meeting, we'll talk or whatever. So we met over at her house, had a long discussion about all the ins and outs of everything, and ended up walking away from that conversation of feeling wholehearted that I think continuing on with something in the vein of what Corey had instilled on us and taught us was going to be what birthed into Death by Festival. And we know that the name now can get some kind of negative connotation. We had some people kind of bring some things up here and there, but Death by Festival really just meant that it was just a death by, and that could be opened up to whatever we wanted to interpret it. So it could be like death by art gallery, or death by music only, and death by film. But for this, like, since we were just gonna kick it in the butt and just do the fest straight out, we wanted to be clear about what we wanted to present to people, and then drive different directions from that point. So coming out with Death by Festival was having source material that's new, and working with musicians that aren't necessarily just in the heavy industrial and super extreme music, which I totally love. But there's such a wide variety of talent out there, and things that scoring and all those other things that really can lend towards the adaptation of films, and especially on the genre of films. So we said, all right, well, if we do new films, then let's also look for music that also is going to support our community. So we started looking at artists from everywhere, like we always have, but the way that everything pieced together very organically was that we brought in all Texas-based acts, and we couldn't be more thrilled for it.
So what are these acts that you were speaking of? I'm really curious to know, because I'm really excited.
We invited a friend of ours who goes by Lone Goat, and he is the solo dark pianist of Goatcraft. And it is the most brutal, dark, beautiful, symphonic piano work that you'll see anywhere, covered in blood sort of thing, and just beautiful. I listen to scoring a lot, so being able to have Lone Goat come and play with us was a real nice treat. For anybody who attended the very first house core, he actually did all of our intermission music during like the award ceremonies and those sort of things. So people got like a little taste of kind of what he could do, but this time we'll be able to feature a lot of his work, and it's just brilliant. Coming along in that same piano thing, we have Curse Mackey, and he's going to bring along that dark synth, just crazy rage, and just an amazing amount of energy behind Curse. People might know him. He's worked with Thrill Kill Cult, Pigface, a lot of other groups. So he's just a whirlwind of energy behind the keyboards and synth. And then our friends David Vincent, which a lot of people may not know him just by his name, but he was the former singer from I Am Morbid, or that's his current project, I Am Morbid, and he was from Morbid Angel. He's delved into a new version of country that's going to be the like classic. I like to call it more like cult country. So you have like the Waylon Jennings and all that stuff, and the bar music and cool rockabilly. So David was more than happy to be able to come on board and be able to play our show, and we knew that some people would kind of be like country, like going with it, but it's like, yeah, country, like I think country has its place everywhere, and you cannot hear a bar drinking song and not enjoy it. So we're like, this is a perfect fit. We'll put it in there, and David's a wonderful guy. And our friends from Houston and Dead Horse, and Dead Horse is known for their 20, 30 years of thrash rock, and those guys are just pioneers in the rock industry, and good Texas heroes. And then Shattered Sun, who is going to be headlining the show, is actually more of a newcomer to the field, but I've been listening to them quite a bit over some time, and so when we started up doing the festival stuff, I reached out to them, and I was really curious if they wanted to come and play the show, and they were really psyched to be able to do so. I said, but I was like, normally we put headliners, like the big names and all those things, because that's what people recognize and want to buy the tickets for and everything. But what I think that makes us a little bit different is that we're not afraid to take challenges and do things a little bit different than the norm. So we took probably like one of our more bottom billed names, just in the way of like people knowing them, not so much of their talent, but putting them on the top of the bill because we think that they have the drive to get on the top and to be able to get there. And so really early on in having discussions with them coming and playing, they started really blowing up on XM, and they started touring out with Metallica and Vans Warped Tour. So we were like, okay, well, we made a great decision having these guys on, and they were more than thrilled to keep and come play a show. So having the bands come in, I think, just fit organically, and also just supporting Texas, we're just totally in love with that.
And going along with the bands, like I said, got the metal, now you have to add the horror. Can you talk a little bit about the horror films that you're going to be showing?
Yeah, horror films, like one of probably our top bill cast. We're going to have the world premiere of Coffin Joe's Heart of Darkness. And a lot of people don't know Coffin Joe work, which is kind of crazy, but probably some of the most brilliant, beautiful, dark, artistic expose, and just really push the boundaries of film for many decades. And he's created a very special piece along with a couple of his co-directors that have helped him piece together like old celluloid and hooking everything up. And so they created a piece specially for this show that no one else is going to see. So we're super ecstatic to be featuring that film. We have the newest American Guinea Pig, which through Housecore we always push the new American Guinea Pig. So we're like, why break tradition? So we talked to Steven, and Steven this time was actually taking the helm of directing and doing all the behind the scenes and tooling this project together. So the way that he described it to me before we were able to see the finished piece was Evil Dead kind of meets Exorcist. And he's like, well, you already know like the whole American Guinea Pig, and some people kind of call it torture porn, and I just call it films for the strong stomach. So this film, it actually goes a little bit in a different direction. It still has that beautiful, dark and super grotesque essence behind a guinea pig film, but it also touches on a whole different storyline. So a lot of people, if they really truly focus on the American Guinea Pig films like Bouquet of Guts and Gore, there's a deeper meaning behind it. So it's not just torture porn. Like there's actually layers and peel apart that onion, and every time you watch it, there's something little and something unique and different. And this film is going to be the same way. So it's ready to take you like on a different journey. So it's giving you some familiarity in that horror world, but this is going to open up a whole new genre of film goers that are going to really love this piece. Another feature we have is Loon, and Loon is like totally out of left field from what I was expecting when watching this film. The characters are in it are pretty rich, but it's the little nuance pieces between these characters that you kind of catch where you're like, okay, this is like a typical film, but then there is just some beautiful moments in their acting, and that's like one of my favorite parts about being able to show these things to audiences for the first time, is being able to see people's reactions the same way that, like, if I have myself on like a GoPro and like watching something for the first time. When I was a kid and the first time I saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like I threw up, got super sick, and then I came back for more. and so I look forward to being able to delve in and do that with a lot of these films.
So, how can people experience Death by Festival?
Well, first, if they like and follow us on Facebook, it's really nice. The other one is they can go to deathbyfestival.com. You can follow our personal pages like Nic Brown. Those are really easy ways to be able to get into it, but also finding the film makers. We have the list of films that we have put online that announce all the 17 films that we'll be putting out this year. Check out every single one of those directors, and they have lots of other works. There's some that's kind of been floating around a little bit, but we really wanted to be able to feature some of that, like death metal. Like death metal is just super gore and super quick and awesome.
From Garth Manor Cinema.
Yep, Garth Manor. Yep. So we are really like, we gotta get this one because it's awesome. A lot of it's just following the movies themselves and getting to know the directors, because I know that, like, for movie nerds, especially like myself, we stay through the intro credits, the ending roll screen. Like we're just looking at names. We may not know anybody on them, but we sit and we just finish every single piece. That's the heart of who we are. And so for us, we start looking at distribution companies and like who's making films and all that, just because you know that there's gonna be some like quality work behind some of those films. Sometimes it can be complete crap, but you start it from the beginning and you go right to the end, and sometimes that end of a movie, the last 5 minutes, can be so amazing that it makes anything completely horrible beforehand bearable or completely amazing. It's just like watching Ex Machina. Like, the first time I saw that film, I was so blown away, and I ended up watching it like 3 times in a row, because it was that build up, and so we pieced together a really cool set of films that build up. We really want to get you loosened up and limbered, and hopefully have a little bit to drink and soften up, so that when we end up hitting you guys with these films, that you're ready for it and that you can just absorb it.
Well, Logan and I I'm
super excited.
We're very excited for it.
And well, I wanted to ask, mostly for the audience here, importantly, when and where is this festival?
All right, so it'll be in Austin, Texas. It's going to be October 28th, Halloween weekend. It's just one day. I think that people were kind of used to us doing 3-4 day fests, and this one we were just like, we're just going to step into doing our first and make it very tolerable, because there is 2 of us putting this whole thing together instead of a team. So we have a lot of good family and friend support behind us that really just kind of help keep pushing us along. So in the vein of support, I've been attending the North Door for many different projects over the years, and so when we were looking for a venue to be able to do a show, I was like, let's go look at the North Door, let's talk to them, and so brought Susie along, ended up looking at it, and we're like, this is perfect, because you're completely immersed in this one little area. So we knew that for one day, we put everyone in the North Door, And we got our stage, we have our gigantic 25-foot screen, like everything that you can do, you're not going to get away. So you're just going to get hit with it all day. So what some people are used to getting in bits and pieces over 3 or 4 days, they're just going to get nonstop in one and feel like it was 3 or 4 days.
So how can people get tickets for this?
If you go online, we have an Eventbrite page. You can get your tickets
So
directly.
it'd be at deathbyfestival.com.
Yep.
Right? So folks, just head over to deathbyfestival.com, and October 28th,
October 28th.
Saturday, October 28th, just clear out your whole day.
Yep.
And then clear out your Sunday to recover from this, to recuperate from all the metal and horror goodness that Death by Festival is going to bring to all of us here.
And we made the tickets like super cheap, just so everyone would come and actually experience a really fun time. So we're doing films all day, bands all throughout the evening. So if you come for the entire day, it costs $15 more.
And also the proceeds from the event are going to a good cause.
Yeah, we decided after Hurricane Harvey hit that, rather than just kind of looking at the situation and being like, well, crap, that sucks. We're like, well, yeah, that sucks, but there's something that we could do about it. So we quickly had a phone call with our partners and bands and the sponsors and everybody, and we're just like, hey, is this cool if we just flip this completely into a charity? And we're just giving all of our money away. So we have 2 great projects that we're going to be working with to be able to help the community, and not just people but also animals. So everything that we want to be able to do is really just giving back just as much as we feel that we're getting. So we're just hoping that everyone just really shows up, not just to enjoy it, but also know that they're helping a really good cause. So we wanted to make sure that everyone could actually be there and enjoy exactly what they want without feeling pressured in any kind of way by what we wanted to be able to do.
Well, like I said, y'all are doing a great thing, and we cannot wait for this. And thank you so much for being on the show. And folks, remember, go to deathbyfestival.com, go on Facebook, look them up, and definitely do not miss Death by Festival coming up October 28th, a Saturday over at the North Door. Thank you all for watching this episode of Mark of the Beast. I'm Mark Martinez.
I'm Logan Gordon.
And I'm Nic Brown.
And we'll see you all next time.